Hello everyone, and welcome to a special episode of Garry on Lockdown for Avast. This will be a preview of my talk at the Avast CyberSec&AI Connected conference, held virtually of course, in October. I'll be joined there by dozens of experts and another special guest, Roger Dingledine. He is the co-founder of the Tor Project, the famous privacy system. I'm not sure if it is optimistic or pessimistic to think we will know what things will be like nearly 3 months from now. But the future is always uncertain, is it not? The COVID pandemic is a terrible new factor in our calculations, but it doesn't erase all the others. And every crisis should force us to examine why we missed it, what we could have done better. I also want to prepare the way for my guest in part 2, an old friend, Avast's AI Director Rajarshi Gupta. We shared a conference stage in Mexico City last year, back when conferences were in person. I look forward to speaking with him in lockdown. But today, some big picture topics. The relationship between cybersecurity and artificial intelligence is a close one. Security is always on the cutting edge of any new tech. New platforms, new communication systems, they provide many opportunities to abusers and attackers. It takes more time to establish defenses as well as healthy user habits. AI has great utility as a shield defending against attacks that come far too fast for human reaction time. The field of targets is also growing exponentially. It used to be you only had to worry about your PC, but now you have your phone, your tablet, plus dozens of connected home devices, from smart speakers to doorbells with cameras to toasters, and many of these devices are made by companies that have little knowledge or interest in security. We will need systems that can adapt on the fly, understand and react in a way that is truly smart. AI has that potential if we invest in it. And what of other types of attacks? The human type of or virus? AI and analytics have a crucial role to play in combating COVID-19. Although it is not a silver bullet. The creation of new medicine, including vaccines, can be made more efficient by faster and smarter computing power. And AI will really shine in tracking the effects of safety measures and treatments. AI's ability to rapidly crunch data to find patterns and correlations means we can test faster and more safely. One complication is that so many of our habits are changing in response to the pandemic. It's confusing the algorithms we need to help us fight it. We design models based on our behavior. That behavior generates data and trains the algorithms. Suddenly, now, much of our behavior changed in response to the virus, making a lot of that old data obsolete, and with it, the algorithms. Trying to use the same analytics we trusted before, we can produce incorrect results. And I'm afraid that our systems are more primitive than they could be. Many of the AI-related technologies that we need more than ever today have been slowed by a lack of ambition, even fear. There is a highly contagious disease spreading all over the globe. Wouldn't it be wonderful to have more robots in healthcare? Wouldn't self-driving cars and buses be far safer than those with human drivers? Instead, the headlines spend more time worrying about killer autonomous robots like the Terminator. Instead of racing to create new jobs, entire new industries, we have slowed down. It's correct to be cautious with any powerful new tech, of course. But fear of losing jobs to intelligent automation does not stop it. It is here and more is coming, and we must invest more, take more risks. That's how we get all the benefits, not just the negative side effects. I often say that AI, like any tech, is not good or evil. It is a tool, agnostic, controlled by people. It's an incredibly powerful tool, one that can extend our minds the way a telescope extends our vision. A telescope has to be pointed in the right direction, however, to the horizon, to explore new lands, to the stars, to discover new worlds, to understand our universe. We are in a present of crisis, but we cannot take our eyes off the future. There is a strong urge to want to go back to the way things were. But the past is gone forever and cannot be recreated. We have to use this time to build better future, to learn from our mistakes. Our other concerns don't go away just because we have new, bigger problems. Privacy, security, our rights and freedoms, they will not wait. That is the core of the message I want to deliver at the CyberSec&AI conference in October. That we are still building, still creating, still moving forward. And the many technical challenges that face us in the AI and security world. Hello, I'm Garry Kasparov, still here in lockdown for Avast Security. This is part 2 of our 4th episode, a special preview of the CyberSec&AI Connected conference in October. I'll be speaking there, and so will my guest today, Avast's head of artificial intelligence, Roger Dingledine. As I mentioned in part 1, Roger and I were together last year at Information Security Conference in Mexico City. Maybe you remember, there were real conferences. People could meet and talk, in person. And I very much enjoyed his company on the stage and off. And I'm sorry we cannot be together in person today. But even in lockdown, we will benefit from Roger's deep expertise in AI and his insight into what Avast is doing today to meet the cybersecurity threats of tomorrow. Welcome to lockdown, Avast head of AI, Roger Dingledine. I'm sorry we're not together in Mexico City eating tacos this time. I hope you are staying well in the Valley. So, as usual, I'll ask some open-ended questions to give my expert guests as much time as possible to explain and expand. But I want to start out with a topic right from the headlines, something that affected me directly. On July 15, the social media platform Twitter was hit by a massive hacking operation that breached many of the largest accounts on the service, including some of the world's richest men, Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates. So suddenly, these accounts were tweeting to their tens of millions of followers about a primitive scam to get people to send their Bitcoin. Twitter's first statement referred to a coordinated social engineering attack against some of its employees. That is, the manipulation of people to trick them into giving up secrets and access. That is likely only one small part of the story, but I like to ask my guest about it. And what, if anything, AI and security software can do about social engineering? Can smarter software save us from our own human weaknesses? To you, Roger.
Thank you, Garry. And yes, it's always a delight and a pleasure and an honor to meet with you. I very much remember our day in Mexico City together last year, and it was one of the best days that I've had in my technical career. It was great. And I'm also equally sorry, been at home for 4 months now, but we're all getting used to this new normal. In terms of, and you asked a very topical question about the recent breach in Twitter, and we've all, of course, everybody has been reading about it and talking about it. So social engineering, they, as you already summarized, right, the attack seems to have come from a coordinated social engineering campaign against the users of Twitter. And it was a big surprise because the affected accounts were one of the most important accounts that Twitter has, and it would be expected that there are a number of protections against it. Now, artificial intelligence is definitely one of the great tools that we have at our services, and to prevent against social engineering attack. But being an expert and being someone who works in this field daily, I would say that the artificial intelligence is really effective in protecting the common use case and protecting the broader use case. So a social engineering attack that is happening broadly, and it's happening to a lot of different people like you and me, this is, well, not, I mean, I would say, like, let's say normal people, is something that AI is very good at detecting and protecting. And that's actually the kind of techniques that we have out there. Now, I am not terribly sure how well a very coordinated special attack that goes after a very specific use case is really can be protected by AI, because you can't really build an AI model for Jeff Bezos' account and a separate AI model for Bill Gates' account. We have to be realistic about the limitations of our technology as well.
So let's say that at this point the shield is inferior to a sword.
At this point, yeah, I mean, because think of it, right? Think of it's a big shield that's trying to protect a lot of things, and you have a very targeted and powerful sword that attacks one point in the shield. That's precisely
more like the problem. Arrows, you know, they're shooting arrows any direction they want, and you cannot have the mega shield protecting all the accounts.
Yeah. Right.
But it's also about human weaknesses, because I guess, you know, the social engineering campaign is also benefiting from human mistakes. So they're just provoking humans to make certain moves that could expose the weaknesses.
That is absolutely correct. And you know what's happening today, though? So imagine, I mean, I already talked about protecting the account of Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates in one way, right? But now talk about protecting the accounts and the passwords of the 5 different people in a place like Twitter who are the administrators and have their accounts. Now, those accounts are also protected, and they're also manipulated and are modeled very heavily in terms of AI and which accounts they are touching and which accounts they're not touching. And this is where coronavirus and the work from home comes in. Because of these impositions that have been imposed on us, every one of us, including the IT administrators, have had to change the way they work. They have had to change the way they log in, and to change the way the types of accounts they log into. As a result of which, the models that we had built, that how administrators change passwords, how do they do it? Well, they've all changed. I mean, earlier you would say that if an administrator is logging in from, if you suddenly see an administrator logging in from Texas when his office is in Silicon Valley, that would be suspicious. But today it's not. So this sudden upending of the real model, or the sudden upending of the normal behavior of people, has also made it challenging to detect these kinds of activities. So, you know, we are doing a lot of things that are very useful, and especially during these times when nobody is in the office, we've done a pretty good job. But it's the perfect analogy that you gave, right? It's a big shield, and you have a very targeted arrow, which is utilizing the chinks in the armor, which specifically is that people's behavior have changed, and so on.
So going back to our conference last year in Mexico, so we talked about securing your device at home and the danger created by having millions, maybe now billions already, new connected devices that are coming online. So do you like the way things are moving? Has this pandemic created new complications with everyone suddenly working from home? And as we know, people, you know, were not used to pay much attention to home security because they had the secured lines in their office. And now they have to deal both with the online threats in their computers, but also in this, you know, smart homes environment, where many of these companies that providing these applications, it's appliances, they are not experts at all and have little interest in boosting security.
Yes. So the as with everything else, this has been a challenge, but it has also been a very good opportunity. So the challenge is obvious, right? Because all of a sudden you have a large number of people, a very large number of people who have now moved their work home, and they are now sitting together in the same network as their thermostat and as their IP cameras, which have not been protected. And the IP cameras now have a lot more access to important official work that's been going on. People would never print out their important official stuff at home, and now they are. So they're having to use the printer connection at home to be able to do this thing. So the fact that these challenges are there, and a lot of companies are becoming very careful about, or becoming very aware of it, it's true. But at the same time, it is quite an opportunity for the security industry and for the global community as a whole, because in general, people were a big part of the problem of security is that people aren't aware of what they need to do. And now when people are forced to realize the fact that, look, my home has become my workplace, and the kind of security that I was used to in the office, I need to get that in the home because the bad guys aren't, sitting quietly. That means that people are being a lot more careful. And by being careful, I mean that taking the appropriate steps like adding security networks. So this is a great opportunity for the technical world as a whole, that how you incorporate the home network into your secure zone and be able to get the protection. Because the technology exists, not just in our company, Avast, but many companies are providing the solution that makes your home network secure as well. We love the adoption.
Okay, now, so tell us more, what AI can do to protect these millions and millions and millions of homes. We know the damage AI can be done and how it's being used by bad guys. Now, tell us the story of good guys, how AI helps us to defend our homes against these invaders.
That's perfect. In fact, this is the exact other side of the coin of the discussion we were having about the very specific targeted social engineering attack on Twitter. This is the general case. So we have millions of homes with many, many IoT devices, and your dishwasher, your IP camera, your TV, and everything. But the big advantage here is that those devices have a very specific type of traffic that they have. TV traffic is very, very, very easy to model. The traffic of a thermostat is very easy to model. So when any of these things get hacked or taken over or is being used for some other purpose, the AI models are exceedingly good at identifying them. So basically the two buzzwords here is structured and repetitive. Mm-hmm. The traffic that comes out of these kinds of devices are structured and repetitive. And structured and repetitive traffic, structured and repetitive behavior is very easy to model. And AI thrives in these scenarios. So that's why, and the other aspect is that AI models are driven by the amount of data that you have. So when many more people are home and many more people are using these kinds of devices, we as an industry get a lot more data that makes our models better and is able to identify the kinds of attacks that are going on. I mean, look, think of it this way, right? The Twitter attack is something that's very significant, and it made the headlines everywhere in the world. But consider that we have been in this COVID scenario in the last 4 months. We have certainly seen attacks that have happened in some hospitals, and some people have done Bitcoin attacks and all these kinds of things. But you really haven't seen a complete meltdown of the security of the world. Even though the entire workforce of the world has moved from the offices to the homes and taken their big data with them to the home, the security industry as a whole has done a pretty kick-ass job of people, even when they went from working at the office to working at home. There have been isolated incidents, but no meltdown. And I think that talks to the robustness of our industry and the kind of AI technologies that we have been utilizing. I'm proud of that.
Yeah, but okay, of course, your interest is not only about adversarial AI and attacks and defenses and cybersecurity. That's Avast specializes in. But privacy is also one of your concerns, of our concern. And many of Avast customers and probably everybody now is thinking about this connection, privacy and security. So now with all this information that being collected to help people to be protected. So does it affect their privacy? Actually, it does affect their privacy. How bad is the situation? And is AI is a privacy killer?
That's a great question, and I think you started asking the question, does it affect privacy, and said no, I know it affects privacy. You're absolutely correct. That the very fact that in order to build these large AI models by everyone, I mean it could be not just security companies, but Google, Facebook, you've all seen all the news about the different privacy problems that everyone's been having due to the collection of data. And I'm not going to, I mean, this is true. This is just pure truth that in order to build large AI models, the entire AI industry has been collecting a lot of data, and that has helped us build the models. So whether that is a problem of privacy depends on how you use the data, what are the rules around it, and so on. But what I want to highlight, though, is how AI can also be a privacy positive force. So imagine as a user, and I don't mean Gary, you, but how about let's think of your mother. And your mother probably doesn't have as much expertise on understanding what data is being lost, what is going on with that data, what are the legal capabilities that different companies have with her data, and so on. So this is a problem because for the normal user, it's extremely hard to understand and take any steps about it. This is the very precise place where AI can step in, because this is a very good big data problem, right? Because if a company is either collecting a lot of data or seeing the data that's flowing out, you can do an analysis of what data is being sent out, what is being done with that data, and not just in a big list or in a big document, but compare this against what other companies are doing. So, let's take a very simple example. Gmail needs to see your email. If you have the Gmail app on your phone, it is very, very obvious that Gmail needs to have access to your email. That's the purpose of the thing. But now, if you have a card game like Solitaire on your phone, and that app is seeing your emails, that's a problem. So this is the kind of mechanisms that AI can impose by measuring and calculating in a statistical sense as to whether the apps and the sites and the websites are really utilizing your data for the purposes that they are meant to.
Wow. So you think AI can do it? Because solitaire and card games versus Gmail, I mean, I can see how it can be done. But then there are many technologies that operate in adjacent rooms.
Yes, no, I absolutely think AI can do it, and I'll tell you why AI can do it also. What we have access to is not only the kinds of data that people want to do, that is public, because especially let's take a concrete example, the apps on your phone. So the apps on your phone are required to declare exactly what data they're using. So you know what data the Solitaire game is using, you know what data Gmail is using. And at the same time, companies are also required to publish their policies, their privacy policies and legal policies like EULAs. And these can be analyzed at scale using AI algorithms and natural language processing algorithms to understand what these guys are doing and whether the thing that they're doing is common or not. And the number of examples is very easy to, I gave the example of Gmail and versus Solitaire, and that's a great example, right? If you have any app that has it has a mapping functionality, or any game that has augmented reality functionality, it's quite okay to realize the fact that these things need your location, and they use it, and that means it's important for their functionality. But what about other types of apps? Do they really need your location? Do they really need your fingerprint? These kinds of things can totally be analyzed at scale. And what AI system can do is to identify the being poorly. This is a perfect analogy between security and privacy, right? Many apps, many sites do things, And it's up to the security industry to say, hey, that you are a bad guy. You are doing things that you're not supposed to do it. Think of a complete parallel in terms of privacy. If the mail app is looking at your mail, we say, yeah, that's the right thing. If the solitaire app is looking at your mail, we say, no, you shouldn't be doing that, and we warn the user.
Okay, this good news are very much welcome these days, and I think it makes this conference in October is even more important because all the things will be discussed there. So, and of course, I hope that all our followers will join us there at the conference. And thank you very much, Roger. Yes, it's a great conversation and very important positive vibrations sent online to the public. That is, I think it's now is seeking to hear some good news and something positive about the future. And I'm sure we'll be talking again soon before the conference in October.
So thank you, Garry. Yes, the Cybersecurity and AI conference will be fully virtual this time on the 8th of October, and we are excited to be talking about AI for security and privacy. Garry, I'll be delighted to see you there again because you are, of course, one of our plenary speakers, as is Roger Dingledine, who's the founder of Tor.
Yes.
In fact, talking about privacy, one of the talks in the conference is explicitly going to be about the privacy preserving COVID tracking apps by Professor Carmela Troncoso from the EPFL in Lausanne. She will be talking about the privacy preserving COVID app that they are building in Europe. So.
I would like to remind everyone that you can send your questions on Twitter with the hashtag AskGarry. That is assuming I have not been locked out of my account again. Goodbye.